Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Stephanie's Larlin. I'm Stephanie. Today I have such an exciting video. I've been waiting for so long to not only film this video, but also to read this book. I am beyond ecstatic right now. This is going to be a reading vlog specifically for Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. I am so excited. I know I literally just said that like 3 times. I cannot wait to read this book. So if you've watched my past few videos, I think I mentioned in them, one of them definitely was the reading vlog for Clockwork Angel, where I reread Clockwork Angel, the first book in the Infernal Devices series by Cassandra Clare. So if you haven't seen that, you should definitely go watch it. And then I think I mentioned in my 24-hour readathon that I had read Clockwork Prince as well, possibly. But yesterday I finished the last book in the Infernal Devices, which is Clockwork Princess. When I tell you I was sobbing, it does not get easier the second time. Oh my god, I think the epilogue in Clockwork Princess is the best epilogue I've ever read in my entire life in any book. It is top tier, nothing can beat it. So now I'm caught up and I've done the reread really recently, like I wanted to, so I have all the knowledge in my head of everything. And I'm going to just dive right into the Last Hour series. And this is the first book in the Last Hour series, which is Chain of Gold. So I think I mentioned in one of my videos that I wasn't sure whether I should read the Last Hour series or the one with Lady Midnight in it, The Dark Artifices. But I think that I'm supposed to read this one first because I think that the Dark Artifices series is kind of set in the 21st century, whereas this is set a little after the Infernal Devices, like obviously not right after, because I'm pretty sure this is about their children, the children of the characters in those books. And also I know like practically nothing about this. I did read the blurb yesterday because I got very, very excited, but I'm still trying to figure out whose child the main character is. I'm guessing it's this beautiful girl right here, but I still don't know whose child she is right at this moment in time, because the way the Infernal Devices ended, if you've read them, you would know that it's kind of like, I know there was a lot of kids, but also the way it's done is it's kind of left a little open as well. I think I'm going to make this video a spoiler-filled vlog because, one, I don't understand how anybody can film a vlog dedicated to a specific book and not have it spoiler filled. Like, I just can't do that. And also too, I'm so incredibly excited about this and so incredibly excited to be in the loop that I really, really just want to share every single one of my thoughts. And also, the third book literally just came out, and this came out years ago. So I'm not that bothered about not having spoilers because I feel like everyone has read it. Okay, this edition was published in 2021. I thought it was ages before that, but anyways, I've been talking for too long now and I just want to dive right into this. It's also beautiful outside today, so I'm gonna lap on some sun cream and sit outside on the bench and just read this literally all day. I have nothing else to do. Also, I do have my annotation pencil case with me because of course I'm going to be annotating this. I don't really know how I'm going to do that. Like, I don't know what way I'm going to sort it out yet. I don't know what the key is going to be like, so we'll just have to wait and see. I'm also kind of running out of tabs, so that's not good, but I need to buy more. But we're just going to start anyways because I cannot wait any longer not to. Okay, I'm actually going to go now because I'm just procrastinating and I just need to read it. I'm so excited.
so many tabs that are like half empty and half full, and I have no clue what sort of annotation key to do and what way I want to do my annotations. Like, I haven't even read the first page yet. And these are all the colours I have, but I have a lot of orange, a lot of yellow, and a good bit of blue. So I want to keep those for the person I know I'm going to be annotating the most, but I don't know which ones I'm going to be annotating the most. It's driving me nuts. Okay, hello besties. It is 3:20 and I have a few updates on Chain of Gold. So I'm on page 70, which is literally only chapter 3. I've been reading this so slowly. At first it was because I was really unsure as to what kind of tab colors to use and what way I wanted to annotate. And I started and I made a tab key or an annotation key. And I think I've decided that I'm going to just stop annotating, and I'm only going to annotate when I reread this, because I obviously do plan on rereading it. But right now I feel like, because I don't know the characters that well yet, and I want to annotate everything, but I also don't know yet which way I want to annotate it. I don't want to do it badly and mess it up on myself. I also underestimated the amount of times that past characters would be referred to in this book. I didn't realize that they were the direct children of the characters of the Infernal Devices. So they're mentioned quite often, and I had picked purple originally to tab those things, and then because they were mentioned so many times, I changed it to pink because I had more pink. But at this stage, like, I just want to tab every single thing and underline every single thing, which I usually would do, but I'm gonna wait until I reread. I think I might end up underlining some things that I feel like I really need to, but at this stage I don't think I will. And it's kind of been taking a little away from my reading experience. Usually it adds to it, but it's been taking it away a little bit because I've been reading it so slow, because I've been kind of worried about if I'm doing it in a way that I won't like, and I don't want to ruin this. Do you know what I mean? It's really stupid, but anyway. I also have had to do, I don't know if you'll be able to see this now, and it's really messy, I'm gonna have to redo it, but the blue, what are these called again? Post-its? Yeah, the sun is melting my brain. The blue post-its, you can see there's a lot of little writing on it, because it's all the characters of this book and whose children they are, because I needed to keep track of who they were, because like obviously the main characters and stuff, I got those and I knew who they were, but now like 70 pages in, basically they're at this ball and I'm being introduced to all these different characters that all have familiar surnames, and I'm like, whose child are you? And I thought I knew all the children, and now more are being added to it. Like, I'm not complaining, but also my list is getting long and I'm getting confused. Also, I have their ages written down because I don't know if any of you are like this, and I don't know if I've mentioned this on my channel before, but I have a really weird thing with the age of characters. So like at the very start of this book, in the prologue, it says that Lucy Herondale was 10 years old, right? And it says at the top, it's 1897. I don't know if you can see that I wrote little bits there, but I need to know, I can't do maths really well, so I couldn't do it quickly in my head to see how much time had passed. And also, I didn't really take note about what year the Infernal Devices was set in. I just knew it was like the 18th century, right? Because like the corsets and all. But yeah, so I have this thing about ages of characters. If they don't mention what age they are, I need to figure it out. I don't know why, I just want to know what age they are. There's literally nothing else to say about it other than I just need to know what the characters' ages are. Also, this is set as well, like I just said, 1897, which is 19 years after the events of the Infernal Devices. And in this book, Will would be 37 years old. And obviously Tessa is like immortal, so she'd be, in normal ages, she would be 35. Yes, 35. I'm bad at maths. Right, let's just get into some of my thoughts other than that as well. So I sidetracked a little bit there. So basically this book follows a bunch of characters. It's not just, I thought Cordelia Carstairs, which is who says on the back and who this person is, I had thought that she was somehow the daughter of Tessa. Don't ask me why, but when I saw Carstairs, my brain didn't go to Jem's uncle. My brain went to Jem and Tessa. And I was like, oh my God, Jem and Tessa. Tessa got pregnant before Jem was a silent brother. Girl, in what world? Anyway, so I was like, yeah, that's so what's happening here. It is not. Cordelia is Jem's cousin because Cordelia is Jem's uncle's daughter. This is such a confusing book, I'm not gonna lie, to keep track of everything. And then the other main characters really are Lucy Herondale, which is Will and Tessa's daughter, James Herondale, which is her older brother by 1 year. Then we also have Jesus, this is so like chaotic. We have James's parabatai, which is Matthew, and Matthew is Matthew Fairchild, which is Charlotte and Henry's son. Right, we got that. But then we also have Sophie and Gideon's children and Cecily and Gabriel's children. So it's kind of confusing because Will and Cecily are brother and sister, they look the same, so their children might possibly look the same. It's kind of confusing me, right? I would have liked a list of character names and their kids. That would have been very perfect. A family tree, if you will, would have been so helpful. So as of 70 pages in, we're kind of only just getting to know the characters, being introduced to all the characters. We're finding out about their personalities and stuff like that. So there's James and a bunch of his friends, which are like so many other people's children as well. We're not going to talk about it. And then we have Lucy and Cordelia. They're actually soon to be parabatai, which is really cool because I was thinking to myself, oh my God, I haven't seen any women parabatai ever really in the Mortal Instruments or in the Infernal Devices. Now, I only watched a little bit of the Mortal Instruments, the TV show and the first movie, and I didn't read any of the books. So that could have changed later, and I assume it would have, considering it's set in the 20th century and this is set in the 18th century. So yeah, that's really cool. And also there's one character in it that I'm really excited to find more about, and I hope to God she's fruity, because that would be such an interesting aspect to Cassandra Clare's books, because other than Magnus and Alec in the Mortal Instruments, who have a queer relationship, that's the only queer relationship I know about in any of Cassandra Clare's books. Now, I could be wrong because I obviously don't have that much vast knowledge, but I'm hoping that this character is queer. Her name is Anna, and she's only been like very briefly mentioned, and she only has had one line so far, but her name is Anna Lightwood. So she is Cecily and Gabriel's daughter, and I think she's their eldest child. So yeah, really interesting. But right now they're at a ball, and we also found out that James has been writing letters to, also gets confusing, writing letters to this girl called Grace, and Grace is actually a Blackthorn. So Grace Blackthorn I thought at first that she was Tatiana's daughter. Tatiana is Gabriel and Gideon Lightwood's sister, right? So I thought Grace was her daughter, but it's actually not. It's her ward. So she's from somewhere else. Don't know who her parents are yet, but she's been staying with Tatiana. And so basically the Blackthorn Manor is very close to the Herondale Manor. So James and Grace met when they were younger. I think James was 13. He's 17 now. Basically, they fell in love and they started writing love letters to each other, but they know that their parents won't approve, but they still plan to marry each other, right? But obviously, Miss Cordelia here is obsessed with James. I don't know if that's obvious because I don't think I even said that, but Miss Cordelia is obsessed with James. So we have a long love triangle on the rocks, on the horizon, which obviously, because it's Cassandra Clare. I've spoken for way too long about this, and that was so haphazard and chaotic, so I apologize, and I'm gonna have such a fun time editing that. Yeah, I'm on chapter 3. page 70. I think I'm gonna stop annotating, like I said, and just read for the sake of reading. I'm gonna go now, and I'm gonna keep reading, and I'm gonna sit back outside and hopefully not get scalded by the sun. I'm very excited to keep going.
Hi besties, I am here with a reading update for Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. So I think the last time I spoke to you was early yesterday, right after I had started reading it. I was on page like 70 or something, possibly. Right now I'm on page 182. I'm like in one of the weird chapters where it's like flashbacks, James's flashbacks. We're going to talk about it. So basically what's happening right now is there's two kind of plot arcs going on, which I do like. And it's two plot arcs about the two Herondale siblings. So on one side, we get this story about James and his kind of love for Grace, and also his growing, budding feelings for Cordelia. Only minimal at the minute, but we're getting to it. And then also the main thing in his plot point is that because his mother Tessa is like half demon, half shadow hunter, and it's actually been said in this that they have now been recognized as this thing called a fae. So she's kind of like a warlock and kind of a shadow hunter at the same time. And because of that, her children have gotten, well, so far we only know that James has gotten some bit of that. James has been recently, for the past few years, falling into the shadow realm where all the demons live. Sometimes it's just like a flicker, he comes back. Sometimes it's for a bit longer and his real body kind of turns into shadow. It's also kind of a little like the Stranger Things, like upside down thing. That's what, just talking about it there reminds me of that. Yeah, and then on the other side of the plot is I was about to say Cordelia. It's not Cecily, what's her name? Lucy. I keep mixing up Cecily and Lucy for some reason. Don't ask me why. So Lucy is also having her own plot arc, and basically at the very start in the prologue we learn that she's met this boy in the woods beside her house. And it turns out that this boy is called Jesse Blackthorn. He is actually kind of a ghost. When he met Lucy when they were younger, or when Lucy was younger, it wasn't that abnormal because apparently younger children can see ghosts until a certain age. But when they hit a certain age, that kind of goes away. But now, like 6 years later, Lucy can still see Jesse. So there's a whole plot point and plot arc going on there. My thoughts so far, okay, matching the characters and their parents, even with my little key about all the family tree, it's kind of confusing. Okay, I say kind of, it is confusing. And because there's so many characters, it's hard to visualize them. I think I've spoken before on my channel about how hard it is for me to visualize a person, a character properly, the way they should be. For this, the only person that I can like fully imagine their appearance is Cordelia, and obviously the older characters from the Infernal Devices, but also James. I don't know how, but for some reason I still visualize Will with blonde hair, but I visualize his son with black hair. Don't ask me why, okay? Don't ask. I cannot visualize the other characters like Matthew, Thomas, Christopher. Like, I can't visualize them properly because it still hasn't clicked fully in my head whose children they're supposed to be. Other than that, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but if I have, you would know that I love nicknames. I really do love nicknames, and I love nicknames in books especially. It was one of the things that I loved about the Infernal Devices. And when I was starting this, I was like, oh my god, more nicknames, I love. But it's kind of getting a bit much. It's a little bit overkill at the minute, like a little bit, because usually when you have a nickname for someone, like from my experience, you'll use that nickname like all the time, except for say when you're being serious and you'll use their full name, right? In this, they're randomly sticking in the nicknames and using them at random points. I don't know, it just feels a bit odd to me. That could be just a me thing. Maybe it's because I don't know the characters yet. and like they're all familiar with each other, obviously, and there's such a big group of people who are such close family friends because their parents were family friends, and they all obviously have nicknames for each other. But I'm not at the stage yet where I can even recognize these people with their full Christian names, so like the nicknames are throwing me off. Also, the nicknames are just odd. I don't know if, well, some of them, okay? So like James, his nickname is Jamie. Love that. On another side note, don't know where Jem comes from. This could be what I'm about to lead into right now. It could be another example of that. But then we have like Lucy, her nickname is Luce. Love that. Thomas, his nickname is Tom or Tommy. I think that's about it with the nicknames that I understand. Now, these are the ones I don't understand, right? For Cordelia, I do understand it now, actually, because there was a whole backstory for it. But her, initially, she was being called Daisy. And I was like, girl, what the fuck? Daisy? Is that like, oh, it made no sense to me. But then I realized it was because basically she had saved Lucy at one point and there was a field of daisies. A bit dumb, if you ask me, but anyway. The one I can't wrap my head around is Christopher being Kit. Kit is his nickname. Now, I could be just very obtuse and not realize that because it's the 1900s, their nicknames are quite different. So it's the same with like Richard's and the nickname for that being Dick. You know, it's a very olden thing. So maybe that's what's going on here. That's what Kit is for Christopher and Jem for James, you know, that kind of thing. But I'm not sure. But it's just something that I noticed and I wanted to mention because it was a bit weird. Okay, so obviously, like Annie, Cassandra, Clare, there's going to be love triangles and about a bunch of different ships, and I'm living for it. But there is one character in this that I've loved so far, and she's literally had only the tiniest bit of screen time or page time, whatever you would call it. I think I mentioned her in my last clip. Anna Lightwood. Yes, she is Sophie and Gideon's daughter. Pretty sure she is. But she is the coolest bitch going. Oh, she's not. That's a total lie. She's actually Cecily and Gabriel's. That would make more sense, actually, because she's more like Cecily. Anyway, she's this badass woman who, like, wears typically men attire and smokes a cigar. She has, like, short hair. It's giving lesbian, right? So praying for that. But also her and Cordelia had like a little moment where she invited her out to her apartment. And I was kind of like, ooh, budding romance. But that could just be me pushing the gay agenda. Let's be honest here. I'm excited to learn more about her character. Right now, we're getting into the thick of it. We're getting into the actual plot now. It was a while there where we were just getting to know all the characters, and don't get me wrong, I needed that. I still need that. But I'm excited now that there's plot in it and different elements that I'm excited to find out more about, because for a little bit there at the start, I was kind of like, oh, I'm not really excited about this book anymore. And I thought I was like going to ruin it on myself, but it's okay. Because the plot is getting a bit back up now. There was a whole action scene with demons, because these demons were out in the daylight and it was real weird. It was great. Also, like I said earlier, I did stop annotating, and I'm glad I did, but I kind of wish I didn't annotate from the start because this is pissing me off. Like, it's really annoying. I also cracked the spine. And I don't want to have to crack it more, but I know I will. I hate paperbacks that aren't floppy. Hate them. Once I get to know the characters better, I'll be able to appreciate it more. And that's why I'm so excited to reread this, which is so annoying because, like, usually I'm excited to reread books if I love them because I can see all the little Easter eggs and stuff and all the foreshadowing. But right now, I kind of just want to reread it because I think it'll make my reading experience much better because I'll understand who these people are and I won't be confused and I'll actually appreciate what's happening. You know what I mean? There's just a lot of characters in this. And don't get me wrong, I love them. But I need a glossary with pictures and their birthdays and their zodiac signs and their age and all their nicknames. That would be superb. Absolutely superb. Like, I would look on the wiki, is it wiki how or wiki fandom or something? But that would spoil me for like the future ship outcomes, you know, and the relationship outcomes, because there's already the other two books released of this and Lady Midnight as well, which is set in the future. So I'm just talking for the sake of talking now, so I'm actually going to stop. Goodbye. Hey besties. It has been a few days. Today is Sunday, so it's Sunday evening right now, and I wanted to give an update. I'm literally midway through a chapter right now, but I sensed a change in the plot, and I wanted to share all my thoughts that I've been gathering in my notes app for the past few days before I get to that point, because I feel like it's going to go a certain way that I want it to go. I'll explain in a minute. So right now I am just after starting one of the flashback type chapters. I'm on page 240. So I think I might have mentioned that there was an attack during a picnic. If I haven't, then that will be quite annoying because I'm just after saying it right now. If I haven't mentioned it, there was this picnic where all the teenagers went. It was this lovely time. We had Cordelia chatting with a bunch of other characters. They were all there. Everyone was there. It was during the day, obviously, and in broad daylight, demons attacked them. But demon attacks during the day and when the sun is out is not really frequent, and that never really happens because demons usually show themselves at night. 3 of the kids got injured, I think, and they're still unresponsive. They're kind of in a coma-like state at the minute. The Silent Brothers have put them in that kind of state because they've been poisoned by the demons and nobody can figure out how to cure them or what poison it is or who these demons are, what type of demons they are, which is obviously a huge problem. Alongside that, we had, I think I mentioned as well that James went into the Shadow Realm and he was trying to force himself to go into the Shadow Realm so he could help the kids and figure something out. While he was doing this, Lucy and Cordelia were at the Blackthorn Manor, which is where Grace lives. Lucy was there to kind of see Jessie, the ghost that I mentioned earlier. So while Lucy was talking to Jessie, Cordelia ended up getting attacked by this huge demon, and somehow when James was in the Shadow Realm and he was trying to come back to his normal state in the real world, he saw this light and followed it. It ended up bringing him to Cordelia in the Blackthorn Gardens, which is weird. And he says that, oh, I was following this light, and Cordelia suggests that he was following Cortana, which is her sword. It's like this really magical sword that kills demons, but it has no runes. But I think that it was actually Cordelia that he was following. And maybe they somehow have some sort of bond or something, because they're in the flashbacks. And we've also been told when James was really sick one time when they were younger, he kept going in and out of the Shadow Realm while he was having his fever, and Cordelia was there and she was the one who brought him back to his body. And I think that he's associated that with Cordelia. And it's also kind of mentioned that every time he's trying to fall back asleep, if he can't sleep, he thinks of Cordelia during that one time when he had that fever. It's giving something supernatural. Also, one of the main things, which is the reason why I stopped where I stopped right now, is 2 characters. So I don't think I've mentioned this already, but Thomas is, let me just check. Yeah, Thomas Lightwood, which is one of Sophie and Gideon's children. He is a part of the Merry Thieves. They keep mentioning in this that Cordelia's brother, Alistair, apparently he's just horrible and bullied all the Merry Thieves at school, and he was just a horrible person. But every time, at the very start, I remember when he was first mentioned during a conversation with all the boys, Thomas had a really weird reaction. He kind of froze and didn't really talk and had a distant, he was described to have a distant look in his eye and stuff, and I was like, something's going on here. And since then we've gotten kind of a few more hints. Maybe I'm just projecting and I'm trying to yet again push the gay agenda, but a few times at the ball earlier on in the book, Thomas and Alistair were seen talking, and it wasn't like they were arguing, they were just having a conversation. And also Alistair keeps randomly disappearing places when he's supposed to be chaperoning Cordelia, that kind of thing. And I have a feeling they have a little secret romance, which also is kind of annoying though as well. It's not annoying, I do love it, right? But also I hate when stories have this kind of, oh, the bully is secretly closeted and is actually in love with the person they're bullying. Like, that's kind of gross. Like, why would you do that? You know what I mean? Like, it's gross. But in saying that, I won't say no. Another thing is, like I mentioned, I think in my last clip, speaking about fruity characters, Anna Lightwood, which is Thomas's sister, actually. Let me just double check that because I keep getting this wrong. No, she's not Thomas's sister. She's Thomas's cousin. She is Christopher's sister. So Christopher is a part of the Merry Thieves. She invited Cordelia to a little tea date in her apartment. And that has happened. It's giving. Like, I want a romance plot between those two. I kind of don't care about James. Like, sorry. Give me the girls, right? Anna Lightwood is canonically, is that how you say that word? Canonically? I think so. I've only seen it written. I never say it. She's canonically lesbian. Winning. Like, they talk about how she seduces girls and she's literally such a heartbreaker. I love it. I love it. Also, so this is a little thing I've connected. So Anna is Cecily's daughter, right? James is Will's son. Obviously, they're going to have the same like appearance sometimes as their parents. So James has black hair and blue eyes, pretty sure. Something like that, like Will does. And then Cecily also has black hair and blue eyes. And her daughter Anna has black hair and possibly blue eyes, but it could be green eyes. I don't know. I feel like the eye colour changes, but like I don't really pay that much attention. You know what I mean? Like I said before, I'm terrible with remembering what they're supposed to look like. But I did notice that they're literally, like, they look the same. Like, Cordelia has a type and James and Anna are both those, like, hello? They look the same. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that they should be together, but I'm also saying they should definitely be together. But yeah, I'm going to go now. I'm going to actually stop talking. I love this book. Hello. Today is Monday. First off, I'm sorry if you hear any noise in the background. My dad is watching a movie really loud. I have a little bit of a reading update. A little bit, a lot. So last time I updated, I was on page 240, I think I said. I'm currently on part 2, and that's page like 369. So I'm on part 2 of the book. I only have this much left. So I'm over the halfway point. I feel like this vlog has been really bad for me explaining what's actually happening in the story. So I'm sorry. But also, I feel like the only people who watch spoilery vlogs of books do the same as me, and they watch them after they've read the book. So, I mean, I'm just going to pretend like everyone's like me. I'm going to assume if you're watching this, you have read this book and you don't care about these spoilers and you can kind of follow what I'm trying to say. But I think the last time I was talking to you, it was right before I read a chapter about Thomas and Alistair, and I wanted to talk to you because I wanted to say that I had theories. Those theories weren't exactly correct, but they were, so I'll explain. That chapter was about Thomas and Alistair ending up meeting each other by chance while Thomas was in Paris on his like break from his year studying in Madrid, and Alistair was there for some reason, we don't know why. They basically like had a whole like date, essentially. Like, not really, but like if we're looking into things, they did. And they also had a little moment where Thomas was talking about this tattoo he wanted to get, and he hadn't actually told anybody about him wanting to get this tattoo, and yet somehow he told Alistair. Really weird, considering they didn't get along before then. It was very weird of him to share that personal piece of information. But while he was telling him where it was going to go, Alistair was like caressing his arm. I don't know, it was very much like described in a way that's giving romance. You know what I mean? It's giving a hint at a potential romance, in my opinion. So I was living for that, obviously, because I was already guessing that was going to happen. However, I thought more had gone down and there was already like some sort of established fling, but I was wrong. So I think I mentioned that the reason why I thought Thomas and Alistair had a thing was because Alistair constantly is disappearing, and he had a conversation with Thomas at the ball, but I was wrong. I remembered that wrong. Now, Thomas did react the same way that I said when he heard that Alistair and Cordelia were going to be in London, but at the ball, Alistair was actually talking to Charles Fairchild, not Thomas. And I have since found out that Alistair and Charles are in love with each other. They're having a relationship, even though Charles is engaged to one of the girls called Ariadne. I also found out that Ariadne is like a lesbian, or a woman-loving woman, and her relationship and her engagement to Charles is purely strategic and political for both sides, which is such a slay. Like, we love a good beard moment, you know what I mean? So slay. And that was very eye-opening, and I realised that Thomas is just kind of has a bit of a crush on Alistair, I think, and that'll probably develop in the later books, I'm hoping. I also figured out that Anna has a possible crush, if not more. She's probably in love with Ariadne, because Ariadne ends up being one of the people who is injured at the picnic, and also since then there have been other attacks and other people have been injured, but not many of the teenagers. It's mostly a few odd random people we don't know about. And then also there is so many romance plots, it is almost too much for me to keep up with right now. So we have Charles and Alistair that I just found out about, Ariadne and Anna possibly, also me really rooting for Cordelia and Anna, which also has hinted a bit more because Anna basically got a whole bunch of dresses made for Cordelia in the right shades of colors that really complements her brown skin tone. Like, slay. Like, I'm sorry, you don't do that unless you are a little bit obsessed with someone, right? But also Anna is a womanizer, you know what I mean? So there's also obviously James and Grace. There's been more updates on that, which I will talk about in a second. There's Cordelia and James, but there's also Matthew and Lucy, which I have just found out about. Matthew has been giving subtle hints, which I didn't even notice about at first until it was explicitly said by James, that James knows that Matthew is kind of in love, has an attachment with Lucy, and Lucy is not for it. Lucy is like, no thanks, and she says straight out, no thanks, like, he'll get over it. He's not the type to actually fall in love with someone. He just likes flings. He is yet again a womanizer, right? But then we have a moment where Matthew puts his jacket on Lucy, and Lucy's all like, oh my god, it smells of him. You know what I mean? Like, it's getting confusing. There's so much going on. There's so many different romance plots. My head cannot be wrapped around all of them. But also, I know when I reread this, I'm going to be obsessed. And when I finish the series, I'm going to be obsessed. Speaking of one of the other characters, so James and Grace. So I've obviously mentioned before that James is like in love with Grace, and Grace is supposedly in love with him as well, and they have this whole relationship, planning on getting married, until we find out after some day randomly Grace is like, oh my god, James, you have to marry me. Will you marry me in Scotland in the mundane way and forsake your life as a shadow hunter and leave all your family and your parabatai and all your friends behind? Like, hello, calm it down, girl. And James is obviously like, no. And then literally the next day we find out that Grace is engaged to Charles, which I mentioned earlier. Charles and Alistair are in love with each other. Charles is also already engaged to Ariadne. Ariadne is deathly ill and unconscious at the minute, and yet he somehow has broken off his engagement with her and is apparently now about to marry Grace. What is going on? But also, I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but I just always thought that there was something off about Grace. The way she was, it was just the way she was written as well. At first I was like, oh, it's probably because she lived her life in isolation and she's not really a proper shadow hunter. She hasn't been to training. She only has a couple of runes that you get at birth. Like, she's not a fully integrated shadow hunter. But I think now, And I know now that I was actually right. My instincts were right. It's more than that. Basically, Grace has some sort of power. I don't know. I was thinking that maybe she might be a vampire. This might make sense because one, that she's always described as being really, really pale. That's just a minor detail. James, after Grace breaks it off with him, he feels like there's this weight off his chest and he's not dazed anymore, which is odd, which also indicates as well that Grace might have influenced his feelings in some sort of way. It could have something to do with a bracelet, actually. She gave him a bracelet when they were like 14 or 15, and he's kept it on him since. But she just took it back, and now his feelings are like back to normal. Another way I know that she definitely has powers is right after she broke it off with James, his parabaton Matthew ended up bumping into Grace on his way to follow James. Matthew as well, by the way, hates Grace, and Grace somehow compelled him to kiss her. Manipulative bitch. Like, hello, what's going on? I think she might possibly be a vampire. Don't know, that's probably a bit of a stretch, but there's something funky about her. In terms of other plot points, Lucy is still kind of chatting with Jesse. Haven't really learned much more about him, but she's also helping the boys while they try to track down the cause of all these demon attacks. So basically, I don't think I mentioned, but there has been another attack on our main characters, and it was when Grace and James had met up, and Jesse ended up telling Lucy that James was in danger. So Lucy, Thomas, Matthew, and Christopher and Cordelia went and followed James and Grace and ended up killing this demon. But they also found out at the same time that the demon somehow listened to James's command, because the demon said that James and Lucy's grandfather, apparently some like demon prince. The last chapter I read was while Anna was trying to seduce one of the warlocks in order to get a pyxis. I don't know how to say the word. They're trying to get the box that holds the demon so that they can hopefully capture this demon and kill off its other like little minions. But yeah, I'm on part 2 now, and I have literally I only have a little bit left, so I'm really excited to finish it. But also, I know I'm gonna want the next book straight away, and I really want to get the hardback editions because I was reading this in the sun, so now it's all kind of warped and everything. And I just prefer annotating in hardbacks. It's just nicer. I'm gonna go now and stop talking because this is getting ridiculous. This vlog is gonna be so long and so chaotic. Like, have I made any cohesive sentences in this vlog? Probably not. But I'm loving this book. It's wonderful and great, and I love all the characters. It's fantastic. Even though I'm still confused and could not give you an accurate description of their appearances. But you know what? Does it really matter? No, because I'm having a fun time. Hello besties. I hope I'm fully in frame here right now, and also I kind of can't see, so ignore the squinting. But I do want to update a bit on this just before I finish it because I only have this small little bit left. I think the last time I spoke to you I was telling you about how they were in the Hell Ruel, the kind of warlock place for downworlders, and trying to get a Pyxis box kind of thing. So they did get it, and also during that there was this whole scene with James and Cordelia, and they were like, they heard someone coming, and then like James just kissed Cordelia in order to, you know, make it look as if that's why they were in that room. And then those people left, and then Cordelia was like, oh, I think I hear somebody else, knowing full well there's nobody else, and they ended up literally on the desk, and Matthew walked in on them. They were getting very hot and bothered. It was such an entertaining chapter, and they ended up finding where the demon's kind of lair was and luring the demon in with the help of Magnus Bane, and they put him in the box, and then all of a sudden the box like shattered. So that wasn't great, and Cordelia ended up getting flung off the bridge and into the water, into the Thames River like. and almost died, and then Lucy like called the dead. So that must be Lucy's power. Throughout the book we've been hearing all about James's powers because of him being a child of a warlock, but we hear nothing about Lucy and what powers Lucy might have, other than the fact that she can see Jesse's ghost. Now we found out that Lucy can like raise the dead and like command the dead. Like she got all the dead bodies in the Thames and like all around to come help her, and that's why Jesse popped up, because she'd called on him. Like, what? There was a whole scene with Alistair and Cordelia, and basically the whole reason why Cordelia has been in London is because her father is like on trial, and she's been trying to help him, but apparently like he probably is the one in the wrong because he's a drunk, but she didn't know that. So he's an alcoholic, and Alistair's just after telling her, and there was this whole chapter about it, and I was literally sobbing. It was the saddest thing ever. Like, that's the reason why Alistair was probably so cold and stuff like that. Like, he didn't get to have a childhood. He was trying to shield his little sister from it and be the man of the house and be there for his mother, and oh my gosh, I was sobbing. It really made me upset. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but Matthew throughout the entire book has been like a heavy drinker, and it's been a topic of kind of subtle discussion, and everyone will hint at him drinking too much and stuff like that, and James always notices that there's just something about Matthew that he's sad about, kind of thing. And I thought that maybe Matthew had depression or something like that, because it was, you know, the 1900s. But in the end of one of those flashback chapters, Matthew just said he committed murder. What? But okay. And then also Christopher got infected when it was literally randomly. They were leaving the house to go get the last ingredient for the antidote, and it was sounding so good, and then they just got attacked by a bunch of demons, and Christopher, which is one of the merry thieves, attacked and poisoned, so he's in the Silent City. And James and Cordelia, Lucy and Matthew and Thomas were all trying to figure out how to get this last ingredient for the antidote. There's just so much going on right now. There's so much going on, and I only have this much left, so I'd say the next time I come and talk to you will be when I'm done, but I just wanted to update those things because I had too many thoughts. I have finished Chain of Gold, and I need to read Chain of Iron immediately. Like, I literally want to order it straight away. I had a little bit left when I was talking to you last, and I think what was happening in the story was James was about to enter the shadow realm, I think, and Matthew and Cordelia were with him, and it was like a whole thing. It was about to be a lot of chaos, which it was. There was quite a lot of chaos and loads of different plot points all coming together, and loads of different things were happening. James found out that in the shadow realm, it was actually the realm of his grandfather, which is a demon prince, a prince of hell, whatever. He also realized that he has powers in that shadow realm, so he could he ended up defeating his grandfather, because his grandfather wanted to inhabit James's body so that he could walk on earth, because for some reason he can't. So that was a whole thing, and James ended up defeating him. Then everything was great, and at the same time, Thomas had figured out, with the help of Alistair, the last ingredient to the antidote, and so they saved everybody that was poisoned. Such a slay. Everything was happy. The Shadow Hunters won the day. It was great. Then we got a little bit of a backstory from Alistair about his time at the academy, which is always referred to in this book because they're always saying how horrible he was and how much of a bully he was in the academy to all the merry thieves. Which, fair enough, he was awful, and we're after finding out this awful thing that he said. Before I found out that, I was like, oh my god, I actually kind of like Alistair now. And I do kind of have a soft spot for him, just because at the end of the day, when they were in the academy, they were much younger, and they're still only coming into their adulthood now, and it takes a while for people to mature, and you can't hold things against people for their whole lives, you know what I mean? Even though the stuff he said was awful and he needs to properly apologize for it. He did apologize for it after he was, caught out, but still. a little bit of groveling needs to happen, you know? So him and Thomas are kind of on the rocks, but also right before that, earlier I was telling you how Alistair and Charles actually had a relationship, and apparently Alistair sent a letter to Charles and was all like, no, we're not doing this anymore. You're not, like, treat me like a fool. Like, I love you, but also, like, I'm not gonna just be with you when you're marrying all these poor women, and it's like not fair. He had this whole monologue and it was wonderful, and he said a lot of good key points which I cannot remember right now, and I would have annotated it if I was annotating. I wrote stuff in my notes and I'm after skipping so many points. But after James and everyone, all the merry thieves and stuff, helped to fight off the demon, find the cure to the poison, obviously there was a few days had passed and James was injured, so he was in the infirmary along with another bunch of people, and Grace ended up visiting him, and we saw her use her powers on James, which before it wasn't really clear how she had made James, made James love her, essentially. Like, not exactly, but like kind of had him completely under her control. And it was because of the bracelet he was wearing, because she clamped it on his wrist, and then basically it ended up that she was able to command him and stuff like that. So it was obviously the bracelet. And then we found out at the very, very, very end in the epilogue that the bracelet was how she was controlling him, and that it was used as well. It was supposed to be used to help the demon, the Prince of Hell, inhabit his body. Which, like, Grace, you're a sneaky little bitch. But also I don't think it was Grace's fault exactly. Like, it was, but also her mother, Tatiana, has been working with the grandfather, which we also found at the very end. Which, I mean, that woman is just cracked. Like, oh my god. And there's going to be so much drama that she's going to cause in the second book. I'm so excited for it, but also, like, she's so annoying, you know? Anyways, I've also skipped a good few points there. I keep going back and forth. So after Grace, like, put the bracelet back on James, she ended up convincing him to break into Blackthorn Manor and get one of the things. I don't know, it was a dangerous thing, and he was supposed to get rid of it, and he ended up setting the house on fire. So James committing arson, not what I expected, but also kind of slay. After that happened, obviously, like, the Clave kind of found out about that, and there was this whole meeting with all the shadow hunters, and Tatiana basically accused James of setting her house on fire, which he literally did do, but obviously we're not going to tell anyone that. So obviously I'd say Grace had told her mother what had happened. Sneaky little bitch yet again. There was no way for James to, you know, defend himself, because Grace was like, yeah, he kind of did. But right before Grace said, yeah, he did, Cordelia has this wonderful idea to stand up and be like, no, he wasn't. He actually spent the entire night with me in my bedroom. Like, girl, incriminating yourself. Obviously that didn't happen. She was trying to save face for James, but also just ruined her entire reputation, because, like, it's literally the 19th century, you know what I mean? And she's not married to the man. And then James asks Cordelia to marry him as this kind of, like, plot thing to save her reputation, and they'll just marry for the year and then she can divorce him and make up some excuse, which obviously is heartbreaking for Cordelia, because Cordelia is secretly in love with him, and James is also kind of in love with her too. But with this bracelet on his wrist, he's so, like, his brain is all muddled with Grace's powers, so it's like he doesn't really know that. But it's so crazy. Like, I was reading that chapter and I was like, oh my god. And then there was a whole little moment as well with Ariadne and Anna, and I cannot wait to read more about their storyline in the next book. I'm so excited. I just went completely out of order with my notes, so that was just entirely not cohesive. I'm sorry, but I'm just so excited. Like, this book was incredible, even though it was hard for me to grasp everything that was going on, because I feel like there was so much going on. I still loved every minute of it. I rated it 4.75 stars. I knocked it off and didn't give it the entire 5 stars because of it being so chaotic and just me being quite confused at the start, especially with all the characters, but also just the entire thing. It was kind of confusing for me, but that could be like a me problem, not exactly the book problem. But I didn't want to give it a 5 stars when it didn't feel like 5 stars in my head. Now when I reread it, it probably will be a 5 stars, because I'll know all these things, and I'm so excited to reread it, because I'm going to be able to actually take in every single thing that's happening and not just be like, oh my god, who's talking? What does this character look like? This book is fantastic. I love Cassandra Clare, and I definitely, once I'm done reading, I think the Last Hours series, I'll move on to the Mortal Instruments. Possibly. It is a lot of books, but I do kind of want to go in order of the years. So I'll probably finish this series and then read the Mortal Instruments and then go on to the Dark Artifices. I think that's the next series, what it's called. I am becoming a hardcore Cassandra Clare stan and a Shadowhunters girly. Did not think that was going to happen this year, but I guess it did. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching it, and I'll see you all in my next one. Bye!